In this video, you will see how I welded up a ladder using about 25 bucks worth of steel. And my side rails are 7 foot on this ladder. You could weld up one of these ladders at just about any length. Obviously, if you went longer, you want to use bigger rails just for stiffness purposes. My rungs are made out of rebar, which is pretty affordable and widely available. And you'll see why I used rebar in a minute. I made 16-inch rungs out of the rebar. And the rebar just need a little tuning up on the ends. That way it will fit in my sockets, which you'll see more about in a minute. And the distance between my rungs is 16 inches. Note that standard is 12 inches if you want to go with the more typical spacing. And just so you can see here, there are a lot of different ways to orient the rungs in relationship to the rails. You could weld them on the front. You could butt weld them just like this. Or you could not use rebar at all and just use more square tubing either on the front or butt welded. But instead I went for socketed rungs. And the reason I did that, there's a couple of reasons actually. And you can see here I'm drilling the sockets. I went with socketed rungs because it means that none of the weight of the person on the ladder is being held up by the welds. Okay, let me just say that again. None of the welds, like the welds themselves, aren't holding you up. Instead, the rebar is in sockets, so the steel-to-steel connection is holding you up. If you're an expert welder, go for it. You know, you can weld a ladder pretty much anyway. I'm kind of a noob, early beginner welder, so I can weld stuff up, but I didn't really want to make a ladder where my life, like my health and my well-being, actually depended on the strength of my welds. So instead I went with the socketed setup. It also works really well, it's a tidy design, etc. Anyway, I got my welding cart out, and first thing I did is I just tack welded these rungs in place. Once I got the rungs all squared away and the ladder was square, you want to make sure your ladder is real square. And then once they were tacked in place, I went ahead and put a good bead around each rung connection point just so that water doesn't get in there. Then I could flip the ladder over and weld the other side. All right, now at this point, your ladder is pretty much done and you just need end caps. But I'm just going to show you what I did with my ladder. It's obviously for this bus that you can see here. It's legally an RV, but it's actually an old prison bus. And what I did is I made some custom brackets that I welded to the ladder and then attached the whole thing to the bus. You don't obviously need to do this, but I just thought I'd show you what I did. Alright, so you can see how the brackets work to connect the ladder to the bus here, but what you need to know is that your ladder still needs end caps, alright, because you want to keep the water out of those rails if it's going to be in a wet environment outside at all. So I just cut up some end caps out of the same gauge steel, this 1/4 inch steel I'm using, and again, welded those in place. And my welds in general are a little bit lumpy just because I'm kind of a new guy at welding, so I had to do a little bit more grinding than a lot of people. Anyway, after grinding all the welds, I just took some acetone to wipe down the ladder. You just want it nice and clean before you go ahead and paint it. You might want to prime it and then paint it. I just went ahead and painted it with this kind of like rust protective enamel stuff. And I painted mine silver. Obviously you can go just about any direction. Alright, now the cool thing about using the rebar is not only that it allows you for a socketed connection, it's also stiff and it offers you some traction on the rungs. So it's kind of nice stuff. Alright, thanks for checking out the build on this ladder. It was a fun project and I think you can definitely do it with kind of low to moderate welding skills. If you don't subscribe to the channel already, please do. Just hit that subscribe button. Comment down below. I'll respond to all comments. Hit me with a thumbs up if you like the video. Share it if you really like it. And note that I'm also on Instagram as Metaspencer, and you can find me on Patreon as Metaspencer as well, where I keep a short blog about my projects that are going on. Thank you.